Little one?
No, it wasn't free for all. And then now we're not. Oh, Jeremy.
Making castles in the sky. Very cool. Besides, an easier edit for you, Matt.
That is accurate.
Also, don't think I didn't notice the midna on the shirt or the Pokemon page.
This is the.
Is that Zan?
This is Zan, yep. And then this is the Summer Games done correctly. I was trying to pick up
I saw a shirt the other day, or maybe no, it's the other day. You know the Jurassic Park logo?
Yep.
Was that, but instead it said Technodrome, and it had a picture of the Technodrome in the back instead of the dinosaur.
I'd like to see that one because I've seen them do that with other shows and whatnot, but I've not seen personally.
The best variation I've seen, it's got the Jurassic Park logo, but it's the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Power Rangers. It's just Angel Grove. Actually, I have that shirt. Glorious. Good.
Alrighty, it looks like we are on Twitch. Everybody has their recording up.
Let me turn down my master volume so
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One, Sid, and Ender Phoenix.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 648 of the Trophy Horrors. That is 3 welcomes for the 3 hosts that are on the show tonight. We were expecting 5, but then things changed last minute. But that's because our boy Tricky went and got himself some much-needed surgery, and he is in the background running the 1s and 2s. So I'll be your host tonight, Matt. And the funny part is Tricky's got his avatar. This is so the audio listeners, you're going to miss out. Maybe you can go back on the VOD. But as he's playing the intro music, the mouth to his avatar is just open. So as the music is playing, his mouth is just gaped. Anyways, with me here tonight, I've got our main man, Alex. What's up, Alex?
You know, I'm feeling a little left out here, a little out in the cold. I mean, the weather outside's getting colder, but there's 2 Grinellis here. Not to spoil anything, folks, but there's 2 Grinellis and 1 Saunders. I don't know. I think you all should adopt me for the night. It's like a long-lost cousin.
Oh, absolutely. You're more than welcome to join the Grinelli family, because tonight the Grinelli takeover is in full effect, because with us tonight we have the lovely Veranza, my wife V. How are you doing, honey?
Hello. I am doing well. Getting some much needed video game chit-chat going on tonight. So that'll be nice and fun to do.
It's been a bit. I mean, usually V will help in the background, but it's been quite a long time since V's actually been on the show.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, you guys are kind of killing it over there and don't seem to need me anymore. So
Nonsense, poopy pants.
I scurried back in when requested, so, but It's nice. I did take a break. I've been taking a break from streaming and from podcasting for a little bit, just getting situated with surgery recovery and all, but doing well.
Yes, we've had a couple of different things going on our end as well, and seeing you here on the show, having you back is definitely good on all accounts. And of course, I was asking how you're doing. Not like I didn't know already. I've seen you all day.
Yeah,
but
like
figured the crowd could know.
Wait, you all, V doesn't stay downstairs and Matt doesn't stay upstairs, and then you all communicate via text all day?
we
Doesn't
actually did that. So it was more like he was in the main bedroom or main living room. I was in the bedroom crocheting, and every so often there was a scream, "Hiya, are you hungry?"
Yeah, and tonight we made a wonderful 5-star Michelin meal of smoked salmon, mashed cauliflower, and broccoli and cheddar rice-a-roni.
Oh, so good.
Did you eat dinner yet, Alex?
Not really. I have a snack though. We ate lunch a little bit. We had some barbecue, a little late. So we had a late lunch, so I'm still a little full, but I do have a snack of some feta cheese stuffed olives next to me. I figured that if I made anything for dinner, I wouldn't have it done before we started, so I didn't want my food sitting out here for 2 hours. So I'm gonna wait until after the show when I sit down to play some games to eat. It's always good to have a little, your food while you game. You get a little achievement, you do something cool in the game. It's like, all right, I've earned my next bite. So.
And they're not just going right into the trash can.
Yeah.
It's you had her until you said olives.
Oh no, I'm a weirdo. I like mushrooms. I like olives.
Oh, I love mushrooms. I love pickles. I love most olives. No.
See,
Well, you can't have a filthy, dirty martini without olives.
I mean, if I wasn't allergic to alcohol, that might be a thing.
Hey, you're gonna save a lot of money not buying alcohol.
I just spend it on other recreationals.
We're a bit of a weird bird in that we have dinner generally like around 5-6 o'clock, and we're told that that's like early for dinner. I don't know, Alex, what's your take on early versus late dinners?
I would think around like 6 o'clock is like the perfect time. But again, like sometimes on the weekend you wake up later, you sleep in, and you don't eat lunch until later. So, you're not always ready to eat at 6. I don't know. I figure that, I mean, 5's not a bad time. It also depends on like, breakfast is supposed to be your biggest meal of the day because it's supposed to get you going for the day. You're going to need the most energy. And generally you're supposed to be winding down in the evening. So dinner is actually supposed to be your smallest meal, So if you're trying to actually get to sleep at a reasonable time and not stay up all night, 5, 6, I mean, that's a very reasonable time to eat. So I don't think 5 is too early. And also, if you're going out to eat, it beats the crowds a lot of the time, so you don't have to fight with everybody to sit down and enjoy your meal.
That is my superpower. Being able to tell when we should leave to go to the restaurant and just miss the crowds. It is a superpower that I do not understand why it was bestowed upon me, but I enjoy every second of it.
I can't tell you the number of times we've gone out, we've eaten, and then on the way out, there's just a waiting list of, the entire bench is full. Everybody's waiting outside. So that was a good time.
And of course, you have to say, you all look to each other as everyone does in that moment, say, we got here at the right time.
Exactly how it goes.
It's so funny.
I also find the early dinners allow me to get dessert later, as opposed to like if I eat at 7, 8 o'clock, I'm not getting my ice cream sandwich because
you're not a dessert with dinner kind of person?
No, I need to process a little bit before. If I'm out, yes, but if I'm eating at home, I need a little time.
So I may be weird also in this, in that to me, like, how you have a meal and you might be stuffed because you eat a lot of dinner. I don't care how stuffed I am. Generally, like, dessert is nothing. It's like it takes up no stomach space because I'm like, it's like just sucking in air because it's like, yeah, there's always room for dessert if I'm really in the mood for dessert.
Well, I mean, I see your point. It just depends on the dessert. Anyways, We're not here to talk about food, even though that is one of the passions of the Trophy Whores. We are here to talk about gaming and what comes with gaming: trophies. And
Food.
I
Oh wait.
have
Oh, sorry. I thought
that
food
is
came with
accurate
gaming.
too. That is accurate too. I have no idea if any of these are updated, so we're just going to go off the counts here because our man Yield is not here tonight, and he normally does the updating. So Tricky is showing level 959 with 33,857 trophies and 977 platinums, and he's messaging Skype in the background saying that he forgot to do something. Alex, do you need a second to get your trophies?
No, you know what? I'm just gonna read it off of here to not delay us. Yeah, Tricky forgot to update the trophy count. Anyway, we'll go with what we got because I didn't earn too terribly many. But level 512, total trophy count of 10,232, and a platinum count of 181 and 180 games.
Okay, Yield is level 520 with 10,662 trophies and 199 platinums, one short of that double out goose egg, but maybe he got something we just don't know about it. I am stagnated at level 221 with 1,328 trophies and 0 platinums. I don't even think I got any achievements recently, or maybe I did, because I started up one of my games and all of the trophies started popping, and I have no idea if that actually did anything. I'll look at that later. Sid is level 120 with 340 trophies and 4 platinums. I'm sure that's an old number. I don't think he goes a week without increasing his numbers. And V, do you have your trophies?
I have no idea because apparently we cannot figure out how to just get to my profile on the PS5 to unprivatize my trophies. And I didn't really care to look at it while you were playing Astro. So
Yeah.
I think I've just had zero. But the thing is I don't think I've played on the PS5 on mine since I threw the controller with Final Fantasy last year. So I'm going to go with 0.
I think that's accurate.
It's quite accurate.
Well, folks, unfortunately, with Tricky in the background this week, we are going to have to skip the musical challenge. So, unfortunately, V's not going to be able to get any points, and I just don't get any points anyway. So, Alex, I think we should just give you a honorary point this week because you're generally good for 1.
Well, we can't do that because I can't just take a free point, but also then Tricky would call me a cheater and start taking points away at random. So I will accept your compliment, but I will graciously decline the extra point.
All right. Well, you're more honorable man than I am when it comes to gaming. But speaking of games, let's let our guest go first, and V can talk about the game she's been playing this week.
So, not a lot this week. We did have some family things that I was out of town for a little bit of the day, but really been focusing on the new update that came with the patch in Supermarket Sim, and being very, very happy about that. And then I've really been getting in. I know you guys been talking about it a lot in the past shows, is the Pokemon TCG. Just the trading card game. Love it. I love being able to get all the Pokemon, go through all the battles and all, and it's kind of that nice wind down for me at the end of the night. Do I wish they had a dark mode? 100%. But other than that, it's not been a lot. I have been increasing my Switch library recently. So I was able to find as I won an auction on Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3 Scarlet Edition.
There's 3 of those games?
I am a sucker for those games. It's like a nostalgia game for me that I love. That is just so much fun. I also picked up the Dragon Quest bundle on Switch as well. And a couple other games, just kind of like rounding out. I have a thing for Dragon Quest games that I need to get them all. Like every version of the Dragon Quest games, I want it. I need a physical copy of it. So that's my things. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Well, V, since it's been such a while since you've been on, is there anything just beyond this week that you've really enjoyed or that you've played a lot?
How World has actually, I played a lot of that for a while. There was a game that was actually gifted to me by one of my community members called Potion Permit that I gave a ton of time into. And then I was also Unicorn Overlord. So those were my like big ones this year. Like I actually played games this year and I was grateful for it. So, and then there's one other but I'll talk about that later.
Is that the one I'm thinking you're going to talk about?
I would like to talk about it at the topic of the week.
Okay. Does it start with a B?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I'll let you get to that topic of the week. Because that was going to be the other game I was going to say you should definitely talk about, because you were all about it for a while. Otherwise, in chat, we got Saber. I'm not sure what tattoo you're referring to, because he's asking me what tattoo I'm going to get. He said, don't be a dirty drawers, I guess in response to the Dead or Alive beach volleyball. Now, the interesting thing was I thought that was going to be, there was something about that game that they either toned down or had to censor because there was like clothing destruction that happened in the game and they were refusing to release it. I think they weren't going to release it in the US, but something changed. I don't know. It was weird.
But I did not get a version that would have been in the US. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And in chat, also welcome MZ Nitro. I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Hope you're doing good. With that, Alex, why don't you go into what games you've been playing?
Well, speaking of Nitro, he and I and Yield played some Rocket League this past Thursday, did incredibly well. If I had to guess, I think I would say we were like maybe 11-4, something like that. It's just a really good night of games. We kicked some serious tail, so thanks to Nitro for jumping on there and playing with us. Also played some Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, just cleaning up some more of the research contracts. Obviously got the Platinum Trophy in that game, so I'm just going to continue to play that game and unlock as much as I can, because having a Ghostbusters game where, I don't know, it feels like there's more to it than just get to, like the Ghostbusters video game was like you got to the end of the game and you were done. This feels like there's more of an ecosystem to it, so I feel like I can devote more time to it, even without extra trophies and still enjoy it. So hopefully they add some more ghosts from the movies, some of the more notable ghosts. I would really enjoy seeing that. Played a little bit of Shredder's Revenge, trying to upgrade Mona Lisa to level 10, got Usagi Yojimbo up to level 10. Now I'm going to work on Mona Lisa, getting her to level 10 and all the unlocks for her. And really the game I've spent, there's one new game I've been playing this week, and that is, well, I guess before I talk about that game, I should talk about the game that I tried to play and couldn't even get through the tutorial. So for those who are maybe new to the show or maybe have forgotten, I got the Platinum Trophy in Hot Wheels Unleashed, I guess the year that it came out, a couple, maybe was it 2 years ago or something? Was it 2 or 3 years ago? I can't really remember, but yeah, got the Platinum Trophy in Hot Wheels Unleashed, which by the way is still a very rare trophy for anyone who's hunting in the rarity event, who's hunting for something worthwhile. Obviously they got Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Supercharged for free this past month as part of PlayStation Plus, and I'm like, there's been enough time between Hot Wheels Unleashed and then Hot Wheels 2 that I've used, like, maybe I'm ready to jump back in. But as I started looking at the game more and more, I was looking at the car selection, because that was one of the most fun parts for me, is just unlocking all the cars and see which cars they included in the games. But there's a lot of essentially carryover from the first game. So I feel like a lot of the cars that I unlocked in the first game, I'm going to be re-unlocking in the second game, like the Twin Mill, and there's the Street Creeper, and there's the Bone Shaker, the car that looks like a rubber duck, the car that looks like a bumper car, the car that looks like a Triceratops. I don't know. There's just a lot of carryover, so I'm like, I was looking at the game and I'm like, man, am I really just going to be unlocking the same cars, plus some ATVs and motorcycles that they added, along with like the outdoor racetracks? I don't know. They added some new mechanics to the gameplay, it seems, but at the end of the day, like the gameplay is the same, and I started playing the tutorial, and heads up, if you want to give the game a try but you don't want to earn a trophy, you get a trophy at the end of the tutorial race, so be forewarned. But I was just racing and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't play this game. I can't sit out here and grind out all these races just to get a platinum trophy. So I stopped playing the tutorial on the third lap, and I'm just like, I'm done. I can't play this game. Also, the DLC cars, the packs they released afterwards, are nowhere near as good as the first game. The first game, you got licensed cars like Ninja Turtles and Street Fighter and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This one, there's like Fast and the Furious cars, and there's like an Alien Encounters set that's kind of cool. But in general, the DLC cars that we got for all like 3 seasons last time in Hot Wheels Unleashed, the original, just way cooler than the ones you get this time. So everything around this game feels so much worse than the first game. I don't care that you added ATVs. I don't care if you added motorcycles. The car selection is either the same, or what they offer in DLC is not as good as what they offer for the first game. The gameplay is largely the same. So I don't know. I enjoyed the first game, but I just don't feel like at this point I could go through and play this game again. So didn't even get through the tutorial. So instead, I went and played a game that I have had downloaded on my system since it became free on PlayStation Plus Extra, and that is the Plucky Squire. A game very much it unfolds inside a child's storybook. So you're like flipping page, like each different area of the screen you go to, it's like flipping a page in a book, and then later on you get the ability to jump out of the book to help collect items. Like you get stuck at some point in the book, and you have to jump out into the 3D world in order to collect this item that will help you progress. So it goes very much 2D to 3D. I don't know if you got for those who played Mario Odyssey, there were sections where you're 3D Mario, and then you can go into the wall and you become 8-bit Mario. Kind of like that, different art style, but it is really cool to have your character go from this cartoony 2D character to a 3D model. The first time you see it is you're going through the book and you're on a page and you see boulders rolling down a hill, and they go from these 2D sprites right in front of your eyes, popping out of the books, to 3D rocks. It's just like a really cool effect that I really enjoy. But yeah, the 2D to 3D stuff works really well. Not a difficult game at all. Even there's an adventure set in a story mode. The story mode is obviously a little bit more forgiving, but even on the adventure mode, it's like not challenging at all. So people may go into this game and play and be like, man, this game is too easy. But the gameplay works really well. It's a really cute art style, and it's just a fun game. Like it's a like a little puzzle platformer that it does lack serious challenge. But that's not the reason you're playing this game. You're playing it because you enjoy just the mechanic of jumping from 2D to 3D, and you like all the little references. Like, for instance, one of the first trophies you get is for fighting a honey badger, and the way it's like a punch-out match. Like, the honey badger is like up in front of you, you're behind this little Mac, kind of, and it's like a punch-out battle against a honey badger. So, again, if you're looking for a difficult game, this is definitely not it. But if you're looking for an enjoyable game that has a neat hook to it, like I said, the 2D to 3D, playing through the book, but then also being able to jump out of it, the Plucky Squire is a really cute game. I like the art style, and I just think it's a really novel idea that kind of, it's not something we haven't seen before, but I feel like it definitely progresses it, and it works really, really well. So yeah, and if you care, the kind of completion time for the game, I think, is about around 9 hours. Maybe there's 9 chapters, so not a super long game, but it's one of those smaller games that just kind of feels so much different from anything else you're playing at the moment or what is available at the moment. So I would definitely encourage people to at least give Plucky Squire a try. If you got PlayStation Plus, like I said, it's if you're on the extra tier, it's free for you to play if you're subscribed. So yeah, I'm enjoying the game, and I just really love the art style, and I think the gameplay works really well. So even without the difficulty, I think it's worth a try.
That was going to be my question. I thought I remember that it was on the PlayStation Plus service at some level.
Yeah, no, it's on extra. So if you have extra, there's really no reason for you not to try it.
Okay.
And I couldn't, like I said, you play like a lot of the, I felt that I would enjoy, even if it was easier, I thought I would enjoy just a more novel concept as compared to a game that I felt I already played before. So it was actually, what I'm really doing is trying to wait until Black Friday sales go on because I'm really looking for Astro Bot. Astro Bot was on sale, but hopefully they give it a deeper discount for Black Friday because that obviously is coming up. So the current sale on the PSN ends on the 23rd, I think. So I'm just waiting to see what games I can snag up. For Black Friday after the sale rolls over into the new one. And really what I was looking for was a game to play in between. And like the Plucky Squire has just been perfect for that. So.
Yeah, those Black Friday sales, I'm anxiously waiting because I thought I saw that Star Wars Outlaws will definitely be going on sale. It's just the question is how deep of a discount is that going to be? And given how it performed, I'm kind of hoping maybe they give us a little bit more of a discount to get some units moved. But so Astro Bot's another good one.
Yeah, so they can have some positive reports. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily thrilled that they added time trials to Astro Bot, but I got through the ones in Astro's Playroom, so I can't imagine that these are much worse than that.
I mean, Tricky, I'm sure can tell you about some of them. I haven't gotten to that level with them yet. I've gotten to some of the legacy challenges, which are fun. If albeit frustrating, and if the speed runs or anything like that, I'll have a good time with that. Saber jumps in chat and says he had to go back and play Astro Bot today to beat someone who had beaten his times. That was on my friends list. It was very difficult. That is the fun part of it, at least as long as your friends don't beat you too much, because getting some of those times, those mini seconds shaved off is going to be difficult.
Oh, I do want to give a fair warning, Matt, before you talk about what you've been playing. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 is free for PlayStation Plus, but there are DLC trophies, and you got to buy the DLC. There are 3 rounds of DLC, 3 packs of DLC trophies. So just be forewarned about that. If you're 100% completionist like me, you may even if the game is free, you may have to spend some coin to get all the trophies. So just be forewarned about that. Yeah, it would be nice if they gave us like the full edition. I don't know if they've released that yet. They initially for the first Hot Wheels Unleashed they released a Game of the Year edition with everything in it. But I don't know if they're going to do that or if they have done that for the second one. So just wanted to warn everybody about that you might have to spend some coin to get everything. But yeah, Matt, what have you been playing, sir?
Well, before I go into that, Saber does put one more thing in chat and says 3.4 for all stages. Come at me. So there you go, folks. There's your challenge.
As long as I can get the platinum trophy, I will absolutely not give a shit about those time trials because I'm not a time trial. I'm not a speedrunner. I don't like doing it. I'm not great at it, so I will leave those to Saber. Saber can have those.
Legacy discussion here was my one buddy Stebbs and I would challenge each other in Portal 2 because you could do either time trial or you could do portal trial. And it was fun figuring out he was much better at the figuring out the least amount of portals needed to solve a puzzle. I was always better at the time execution of the portals. And he would look at some of those challenges and go, you beat me by 10/100ths of a second. I don't even no, I'm giving up on that. That's yours. And then we move on to another puzzle. So I am all about that, Saber. I will definitely take you up on some of those challenges once I reach that level. Tricky also does pop into chat, says that he is working on the platinum for Lego Horizon and that he is 1 trophy away. So he's probably going to plat it while on the show tonight. And then he does say, fuck the last 2 time trials in relation to Astro Bot.
Oh, he got what? It was last Thursday that Lego Horizon came out. And I know Tricky's had some time off to just sit and play games, but that cannot be too involved with a platinum trophy if he's already not like, most Lego games are kind of a grind to get the platinum trophy. That one's got to be maybe one of the easier ones to get, it seems.
Well, so that's my issue. And I think we were talking about it in our Facebook chat is that I'm kind of concerned with how much the game is and how much of a campaign there is. Obviously, if I'm not going for completionist, my value is in the main campaign itself. And I have concerns that it may just be short. I've heard 5 hours, I've heard 10 hours. I don't know what's what, but I'm interested. It's Lego and Horizon, and I like both of those things. So there's no reason I wouldn't like the game. But for $60, there better be more than 5 to 10 hours of a game there. But that's not what I've been playing. I have been playing a number of different things. Today, I played a little more of Astro Bot Playroom. I really didn't do much other than I started going after some of the secret warp levels. I wanted to start circling those and completing some of them. And I did what Tricky suggested last week was I started using the game hints card. And in one case, it definitely helped me. In another, it was no good. And what's nice is they give you the ability to rate them to tell you, so you can tell other players whether that's a good tip or not. Like, for instance, there was a puzzle about getting the puzzle piece. And I was going insane not knowing where to get it. And I go to the hints card, and it just shows you how to solve the puzzle, not how to get to it and figure it out. So that was a thumbs down because it wasn't doing me any good. So I had to go to YouTube. But I did 2 of those and made sure that I got all the bots and all the puzzle pieces in them. So that completed my playthrough of that today. I also played a little bit more of Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Steam Deck because that is a fun game. Just being able to go around, ride around on a horse, do some hunting, help some people, maybe rob some people. Well, depends on what your playthrough is. But it plays remarkably well on the Steam Deck for what the game was when it came out. You know, making launch day PS4s sound like a jet engine. Doing pretty well in that system. I'm still in chapter 3 or 4. It's the chapter where you get to meet the 2 feuding families, and you have to figure out how to best fleece them of their money as much as possible. So I'll continue on with that every once in a while when I feel like going to ye old west and riding a horse into the sunset, as it were. Also went and played a whole bunch of Team Fortress 2 last night, which is, you know, a very old statement considering that game's been out for 13, 14 years and it's still going strong. Let's see, 10, 13.
It has to be longer because it was the first game that we started playing together, and you and I have been together for 15 years.
2007, so that's 10 plus 13 plus 4, so 17 years. There you 17, go. Yeah. My math is mathing today. You know, had a really good couple rounds. I will say they did a lot of great work with this game in the past year because this game for the past 2 years was plagued with bots. It was really bad. You couldn't go into a single match without having bots ruin it. You know, whether it's spouting some racist shit on the microphone or just aimbotting, insta-killing you from halfway across the map. So whatever Valve did, figured it out. And it's fun to play with friends again. And that's what I was doing. We were playing a game, and of course, you know, nobody wanted to be the medic. So my buddy and I were medics, and you know, we led our teams to victory, which is, you know, the best part of it. But we had some other fun, including one part where I was standing on a platform and 2 of the enemy teams came at me, and one of the abilities the pyro has, he can air blast using his flamethrower, and I air blasted 2 of them right off the cliff and said, that's my play of the game tonight. I'll take that. Eat your heart out, Overwatch. If TF2 had plays of the game, I think that would make it top Overwatch again at some point. What else did I play? I also played a little bit of a game called Hands of Fate 2. This is a roguelike game where you, in a way, you build a deck. It's kind of like a deck builder, like Slay the Spire, or I don't know, what's the other game? Power Chord, something like that. Except your cards give you buffs and abilities, and when you have encounters, it's actually played out in real time. So, you know, you're at a table with this mystical figure. He gives you cards, you choose a path, and when it comes to combat, it warps you down to like a battlefield, and you're actually controlling a player that you're attacking, dodging, blocking, all sorts of things. And the cards you get can either help you or hurt you. Plus, you get to meet other characters who can assist you along the way. And ultimately, your goal is to complete a trial. And it's a really fun game. It's been out for a number of years. I've started it umpteen times because I keep losing my save file because it's an Epic-based game that I've had. Evidently, it is on Steam, but I already own on Epic, and I very rarely will buy a game that I have on Epic already. It really doesn't serve the purpose. So that game, it's really for those who are into RNG and luck and whether or not you have good battle prowess, so to speak. Then also I played more Super Mario Party Jamboree, which fuck the computer, because I was winning up until I'm not sure if you remember this, Alex, but there's a not a mini game, but it's a special square, and you have a player block, a modifier block, and another player block, and you could toss coins or stars or whatnot. So I went for the middle block, I made it a star, and then I went for the other block, hoping to find the player I wanted to steal the star from, and I succeeded. Unfortunately, and for those of you who don't know, each time you hit a block to set in your modifier, the other blocks spin faster. The third block, which is now spinning the fastest, I gave the star to the player who ended up winning. Just my luck. So just be careful, gambling out there, folks.
We first saw this in Mario Kart, right? The Nintendo rubber banding that we all experienced, and I think I first noticed it in Mario Kart 64, but in their strides to make games more even for everybody so that one person didn't just dominate, it feels like, and in some of the Mario parties, they just introduce like some random ass stars and just like random ways to get stars, like finding a hidden block or something like that. They completely negate all the skill of the game. But as much as I appreciate Nintendo trying to make games more accessible to people, there are definitely times, and it's, I think Mario Party might be king at this, where it just feels like your skill level is just completely, it's very frustrating to have your skill level completely negated by some magical, like some RNG or some luck, or just something built into the system where this like in Mario Kart, where you can't get a blue shell if you're in first place. You only get shitty things like green shells and fucking bananas. So you get screwed by being the best. You get fucking screwed. So I don't know. There's always been Mario Party, I guess, has always been more RNG and just luck based than that. But it's very frustrating to play those games and realize that no matter how good you are, you can be the best person at that game or at the mini games, and there are always those things that turn the tide. And I don't know, that just always kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. I mean, granted, Mario Party's still fun. We keep coming back to it, but I do find that very annoying about some of those Nintendo games.
So here's two things, and I'm giving credit where credit's due. Nintendo did think of those things. Use the example Mario Kart. There is a mode in Mario Kart that it doesn't matter how well you're doing. Items are randomized. What you could be in first place and get the blue shell, but you have to opt into that race mode. Mario Party Jamboree has a thing called Pro Mode, where a lot of the randomized, I shouldn't say all, but most of the randomized bullshit is gone. To me, that is not how I want to play the game, because as much as it sucks to lose, especially when you play with your friends, it's sometimes fun just to shake up the board and say fuck it. Because I'll play my friend in Mario Kart and he'll win a race, 9 times out of 10. I just want RNG to be in my favor once in a while and let me win. Makes me feel good. And to me, that's the purpose of Mario Party. It's supposed to be random. It's supposed to be chaotic. And that's why I like it. But they did introduce Pro Mode, which takes away some of those things that made those games randomized. So maybe that'll be interesting to you at some point.
Well, here I will die on this hill, and that growing up, I always thought that Diddy Kong Racing was the better racing game, because if you'll remember, instead of just having a random item block that you hit and then you would get a random item, well, you would only get certain items if you were first. But Diddy Kong Racing had the 3 different colored balloons, and you can pick which item that you wanted, and then you could build the strength up for that. So you could pick a defensive item, you could pick an offensive item. It wasn't just a random block. So I always appreciated that about Diddy Kong Racing, how you could choose and strategize based on the color balloon you picked up.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a valid, valuable point of playing the game. It's, to me, I like in party games a little chaos to be introduced every once in a while. And the final game I was playing, I'm thrown back to a 2012 classic, a game called FTL, Faster Than Light. For those of you who don't know, this is a top-down space exploration game. It's a roguelike game where you have a ship, you have a message, and you have to get the message to your fleet. Otherwise, the rebellion will take over. And it's done in the vein of a micromanagement sim where your ship has several systems. You've got weapons, you've got doors, you've got oxygen, you've got shields, you've got engines, you have a med bay. And there's different ships you can get throughout the game. And what you have to do is you have to get crew that can man those stations. Most stations are autonomous, such as the shields. When your shields go down, they automatically come back up after a set period of time. However, if you have somebody manning it, it actually recharges faster. If you have somebody manning the engine bays, you get a bonus to your evasion skill. Because as you're exploring the space, you come across some things that will try to kill you. Come across some things that try to bargain with you. And what ends up happening is if somebody takes out your shields, you now have to have a character repair those shields to be able to get your shields back up. If somebody has if they take out your engines, you lose evasion and can't jump if you need to. So the biggest thing about the game is just trying to get through to the end of your run and making sure that you do it with as little damage as possible. You get resources, you get scrap, you have to recharge. If you use missiles, you have to keep ammo going. And the fun part of it is a run can go perfect up until the last fight, and you still lose. But like everything else, you get some things, you get bonuses, you can improve your ship along the way. And I don't know, I just felt like I needed something to be, challenge my mind, challenge my reflexes and management. And the end result was I lost my run. It happens all the time. It's a tough game, and it's a fun one. In the chat, we got MZ asking what happened to the 3 for tonight. If you mean our other guests, MZ, we had folks that were not able to make it. They were invited, and last-minute changes occurred, and unfortunately, they were not here. So there's that. You got us 3. I think the best 3, if you ask me. But oh me. So that is all I've been playing. I know it seems like a lot, but people want to hear us talk about games. We got games we were playing. But we also got a little bit of news to get through. Kind of kept it short, sweet, simple, to the point. I want to get to the listener questions since there are a bunch. And then, of course, our topic of the week. That said, the first article coming from GameSpot, Evan Campbell wrote this. Pokemon TCG Pocket pushes past 30 million downloads. So currently, it's set up as the #1 free game on the app and Play stores. It beat out other games such as Roblox and Monopoly Go. And Pokemon game sales total on Switch top 99 million. So, unfortunately, it's not giving them any reason to improve, but at least we won't have any shortage of Pokemon games. Now, Hun,
the Switch games include what? Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, So there's two versions of that. There's
Yep.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Legends
Sword and
Arceus,
Shield.
and then Sword and Shield. Those are the 7 games, right? There's only 7? Or is Detective Pikachu
1,
on
2.
Switches?
Well, the new Detective Pikachu, the Detective Pikachu Returns,
Yeah.
was on the Switch because the original was on the 3DS.
Okay.
I think that's 7 or 8 games.
I think that's
not
that's 8.
Maybe 9. Anyways, I know V and I are going after Pokemon.
Yeah.
Trading card game Pocket. It's a very simplified version of Pokemon.
Yeah.
The trading card game, but I've been enjoying it.
I feel like for me, I'm gonna get a Pokemon Go feel of it. And the issue that I'm coming across is the same thing that I get with a lot of mobile games that I do, is for the first week or two, I'm all in. Everything's going there. I have multiple things to do and everything like that. I'm now in a position where it's slowing down. And I can't get, like, I'm getting the same cards and I'm getting everything like that. And we're trying to, like, yes, I'm trying to get specific cards. I'm trying to get specific things so I can build up my decks so that I can be better in battles. But at the same time, it's, instead of playing it for like a couple hours, I'm now playing it for like 15 to 20 minutes. And then I will let it sit because I'm done. I'm done everything that I can do at that point after 15 to 20 minutes. So
is that a bad thing for them, do you think? Because the key for them is you open it every day. Like, that's what they really want.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And having the premium free for 2 weeks is really nice too, because you can kind of see what you can do, but it's also comes into that kind of pay to play system with it, which almost all mobile games have. But I feel that what Matt said was the number of downloads and a number of things does not warrant them to make updates quicker. And I think that's where they're going to lose a lot of concurrent players in it, is that if you're sitting here and you get to a point where my boredom kicks in, I'm going to be, same thing that happens with Pokemon Go. I'm just not going to play it. I'm not going to sit there because the updates took too long.
When you say updates, you mean adding new card decks?
Adding new card decks, but like right now, there's only the 3 packs that you can open, you know? Great. I think I'm literally, there's 221 cards that you can get in your deck, and I already have 187 of them, and the only ones that I'm missing are the, like, rare ones that you can't get. So, and I admit that, yeah.
Matt did say that, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm misrepresenting what you said, but that you can trade in extra copies of cards you have and then maybe pay towards a specific card that you want or need.
Correct. You can do that. So I mean, that's the thing that I was doing, and being able to create the deck that I would want for my battles. You know, I know that this is going to work well for all battles, but I don't have X evolution, or I don't have the starter for an evolution. You can go in for that. But now it's that idea of, okay, let me save up my points, because all the ones that I need are going to be anywhere from like 200 points to 500 points when the normal ones are about like 50 to 100.
So, quick correction in that you can trade in extra cards to give your cards flair. So, like sparkly,
Correct. The
or
sparkle
lightning
stuff.
or fire. Opening packs gives you points that will then allow you to buy specific cards. And like a normal card, like a Bulbasaur, is 35. You want the EX version of an Arcanine, that's going to cost you 500.
Yeah.
And you don't get a lot of points for opening packs, so it'll take you time to build up.
Yeah, and it becomes that idea that, all right, I'm now at the point where I need to, if I'm opening up the packs and I'm opening up everything, it's taking me 5, 6, 7 days to open up enough packs to get one card. And my attention span is about the size of my pinky nail. So
but
it's very
the game doesn't fail to tell you that you can speed things up with Poke Gold.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, you can speed things up when you get shit crystals.
So, question for you all. If you just want to collect the cards in the game, like I collect Pokemon cards as a kid, but it's way too expensive as a hobby for me to continue as an adult, given that I have other hobbies. If you don't really enjoy the battles, can you just collect the cards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know like some of the artwork on the Pokemon cards is pretty outstanding. So like, I mean, maybe you work your way into the battle system, but like for me, just collecting the cards and having that there, like that would be the most enticing thing for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's plenty of cards that have like stylized art on it, and then other cards like Mewtwo and Pikachu, you open a specific card and it actually plays like a vignette that shows where the card background came from. So it's really neat in that aspect. And those are the cards that are going to be like the most expensive. And for, listeners of the show, you're not going to see it, but I'm putting up like a special Alakazam card I got that is way stylized and very, very psychedelic. So there's plenty of cards like that really kind of, those are going to be the ones that are expensive to get with your pack points. But when you manage to open a pack with them, and of course there's all sorts of theories on pack opening, like if you manage to see one with a imperfection, because what happens to open packs is the pack comes up on your screen and you swipe your finger across the top, which then opens the pack for you. Like it cuts the top off and it goes into an animation and all sorts of things. So yes, if you like collecting cards, absolutely. And I think trading is coming down the line, but this is where I really want the Pokemon Company to figure it out, to say, what's the future of this game look like? Because right now, I think basically the packs you have are going to be there, and then there's events that they run through, and that gives you access to limited time, limited edition cards. So we'll see if this manages to hold its candle,
Right.
because it's right now it's new and it's exciting, but to V's point, what happens when everybody's like, all right, I'm bored of this?
Right. And what he was talking about, and I can kind of show you here, is the one that I got from Mewtwo.
And you see how it's motion activated. Like
Yeah.
You got like the broken glass. The broken glass looks like it's moving.
Right.
Exactly.
And it just goes through this, and you see everything that comes with it, which is, it's nice. And I love that aspect of it, kind of like how you said, where if you're just doing things for the card collecting, that's great. But I get bored very easily if I'm just doing opening a pack, making sure that I get this done, doing my dailies. It's like it really becomes for me that monotonous thing of, okay, I guess I got to do it this way, and then I fall off of it. what happens with Pokemon Go. I get into it for a week or two, and then the next thing I know, meh.
It all depends on how you play, but also like I've got my hand in so many different pots when it comes to the games that I played. That honestly, having a game like because the best part, like the biggest dopamine hit that you get from Pokemon cards is opening the pack. So
Right.
like if I could literally just like open a pack a day or every 12 hours and then shut off the game and then go back to playing the games I already played because that takes up a big chunk of time as it is. I don't know. That really sounds really nice to me. I know that this game is meant for more than that, but being able to get free packs and collect the cards without spending money, and then also not having to have a huge time investment in it because I still do play Pokemon Go and I play on the 5, obviously. I don't know. That just sounds nice to me. But it all depends on your play style and how you how much time you want to spend with games. Like if your reason for spending time in a game, or if you want to open a game because it draws you in and you actually want to spend significant time with it, I can understand how this kind of thing would get boring after a while. We also got to remember, one, there's tons of Pokemon games out that come out all the time, not necessarily on the Switch, but in the mobile arena. And like there's been numerous online card games for Pokemon TCG. So this is probably not even the last Pokemon TCG game that's going to come out.
Yeah, and to V's point earlier, and to your point, Alex, is I like going in, doing something real quick, playing a match or two, and then calling it quits for the day. Be like, yeah, I did my dailies, I got my stuff done. It was maybe a half hour, and that's it. So I really need to figure out what my strategy is going to be, because they give you rental decks and all sorts of things you could do to kind of get you started. And then while you build out your cards and test different decks, I could never get into buying physical card. I played Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day. And after a while, I was like, I can't spend any more money on this game. It's too much upkeep. But a virtual game that I don't necessarily have to spend money on, and as soon as I'm done, I'm good. And if I haven't spent money, it's not like I'm losing anything valuable. I played Hearthstone back in the day, and I spent $40 on packs, and I said, no, I don't like this, because once I'm done with the game, that's $40 I'm never getting back, and it's not like I can do anything with these cards to retain my value. In chat, I just wanted to circle back and say welcome to Black Chaos, welcome to Channel 3 GG. Tricky says the trophies are updated. Well, too little, too late. And then MZ said, when we were talking about the cards and the pack points, the gold versions will cost you the full 2,500 point amount. I could see that being a thing.
Oh, before we move on, I do want to mention we did forget two Pokemon Switch games, and that was the Diamond and Pearl remix. So there are 10, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I ignored those heavily. I tried Diamond and Pearl back in the day. It just that's when I got out of Pokemon for a good long time. And I circled back when Black and White 2 came out. The next article brings us into the wonderful world of workforce strike. And what happened, if you remember last year, was Bethesda workers formed one of the first unions. And ZeniMax Workers United, as reported from GameStop and Blair Marnell, they are negotiating a deal with Microsoft over remote work requirements and limiting the number of outsourced Q&A, that's quality assurance workers. And they held a one-day strike for the purpose of sending their message. They came back and said longer strikes may be proposed if negotiations continue to fail. Nobody's been saying that there's been bad faith arguments or offerings, but the workers did say that Microsoft kind of has been coming back to them with the same deal, really not modifying it each time that they've come to the table. So interesting. I'm not sure what a one-day strike in game development will really do in the end. I don't know. Do you see this being successful, Alex?
I mean, I guess when I first saw this, I'm like, oh shit, things are going down now. But I mean, for you to get anything out of this, for you to really have any leverage as a worker, you kind of got to put more behind it than this, right? I mean, while a one-day strike, I mean, I can't remember. I feel like this has been done with other businesses and other arenas, but if it's just a one-day strike, you may be making a point, but if you're just going to work the next day, or the next week, what did you really accomplish, right?
I liken this to, or I compare it to, I should say, the International Longshoremen's Association strike that occurred back in October, where up and down the east and Gulf coasts of the United States, longshoremen workers striked for about 3 days. And that cost anywhere from, I think they said 500 million to 2 billion per day in impact to U.S. commerce. I'm not sure what 1 day of the strike would do to impact game development over at ZeniMax. And Tricky does say that was to send a message that they can and will strike, and that makes sense. However, I'm not entirely sure what a longer strike is going to do, because when you take a game and you say something like Elder Scrolls 6 that doesn't have a release date, that doesn't have any release window in sight, will a 3-week strike do anything in the grand scheme of things? Yeah, I know that they're building provisions to make sure that they don't get crunch time and things like that, but a game released 3 weeks later because of a strike versus, does that really set them back any significant amount of time? Because that's the goal. The goal is to make management understand that without your labor, that the product will not get to people's doorsteps, and therefore you're going to be losing out. I could see it working, because the longer the product goes without being released, the longer management and shareholders are going to have to wait to get a return on their investment. I think you need months worth of a strike to make that felt.
Yeah, because obviously, the longer the workers go striking, the company itself, in the form of Bethesda, the more time they take off from working on games or from maintaining games and releasing patches, that's less money than Microsoft getting. That's pushing back potentially their forecast when games are going to be released. So the longer you go, it becomes like, hey, who can hold that longer? The company, which is losing money day by day, or the workers who are not really getting paid, if you're paid by the hour. What I was thinking about earlier, when I was trying to think of companies, but we had a sick out day for the bus drivers here in Jefferson County last year, because there's issues with kid behavior on buses and stuff like that, and you've had a lot of bus drivers quitting. And they did a sick out one day where a bunch of them called out, and obviously that strained things when it came to getting kids to school. But at the end of the day, do I really feel like it encouraged the school system to do anything more? No, not really. There's still an issue with behavior, and you still they still had to stagger the times for schools, because for a while there, middle school, high school, elementary school, like they were going for each level of school, they were all open at the same time. But then because of bus driver issues, they had to, basically different schools are going to are starting at different times and letting out at different times. So they had to stagger the bus schedule so that you had sometimes bus drivers coming for a second route, looping around for a second route later to take kids to school again. So they did 1 day sick out. It wasn't like a full strike or anything like that, but did that work? It may have made things hard that day, but I don't necessarily think it made a huge impact in the long run on what JCPS decided to do, Jefferson County Public School System, or Jefferson County Public Schools. So again, when it comes to a big company, like, yes, 1 day may cost them some money, but really where you're going to hurt them is you're costing them money in like a long-term, drag on their financials. So I don't know that 1 day is maybe a signal fire that says, or like a, what are they called? A flare that says, hey, you shoot it in the air and said, hey, we're willing to do this, because it does say that they are willing to negotiate longer ones if these negotiations don't turn out. But 1 day as itself, not going to do a lot. The looming threat of maybe longer strikes, and that's really where the danger is, and that's really where the concern for Microsoft becomes, is how long are people willing to sit out?
Okay. So, Hun, I know you stepped away for a minute to take care of the animals, so I'll recap for you real quick, is that Bethesda workers who have unionized went on a one-day strike to send a message up to
Yep.
Microsoft telling them that they can and will strike if they don't meet their demands as it relates to remote work and outsourcing QA workers. Do you think the one-day strike is effective in what the message was to Microsoft, or do you think there needs to be a longer demonstration, more action by the union workers?
I'm kind of torn between it, and I was listening to kind of what was being said. It's this idea that you did the strike, you did it for one day, and it kind of like it's supposed to put that, I guess the lack of a better term is the fear of God into these um to all of them. But at the same time, I'm seeing it as being it's a one-day strike. Yes, we're willing to do it for a longer period of time, but is it really going to dissuade the investors, dissuade everybody? Because in their mind, and we had talked about it with something similar with the peer worker strike in the past, which is the one thing that they were arguing about is using the AI to take away jobs. Well, all the investors have to do is get through this contract, and then they don't have to hire or do the contract anymore with the peer workers. They can just do a different contract with companies that are willing to use AI, which is going to be cheaper for the company. And I feel that that is kind of the message that is going out with industries right now, not just the video game industry, not just any other different types of industries. It's the companies are not going to care as long as they're making a profit. And unfortunately, that means that it does affect the workers.
Matt, you brought up something in the chat because we talked about this before the show, a couple days before the show, when I think I was the one who first introduced this into our awareness. But this also, obviously, yes, they could be saying, hey, Microsoft, we will absolutely strike, but it could also be a bluff. And I think that Microsoft should maybe consider it a bluff until maybe they strike for longer. But you made the point, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm, I misremember, I'm misrepresenting what you said, but you will see a lot of these strikes soon after a union is formed.
Yeah, and listen, you don't form a union because you think you're being treated well. You form a union to collectively tell your employer, we need better working conditions, we need better pay, we need better this, that. What they're looking for something.
Stop firing everybody.
Yeah, and as soon as you get that voice, you use it, because other than what's the purpose? I mean, Tricky says the problem is that Microsoft can still fire the workers and replace them. They strike for too long or at the wrong time. Microsoft can easily replace the workers or outsource the work. Like the out-of-work game devs will quickly jump into those roles because they don't have any loyalty to those unions. Unless your collective bargaining agreement has, and Tricky should know this based on his line of work, you can't just fire a group of workers in a union. There has to be a cause. There has to be something. Otherwise, the union can file a grievance. There could be financial penalties for that company. There could be other issues. Now, if the workers do go on strike, yes, there could be temporary arrangements set where devs can come in and cross the line, and those are known as scabs or rats. The problem is, especially in the developer world, when you consider a cybersecurity environment, you can't just have people come in and take over the consoles and do development, because people don't know those passwords and usernames, and they can't just access the computer systems without being set up. I actually think it's much more difficult than in like a physical labor union where you can go in and just be taught how to operate the machines. These are devs that have to uphold with cybersecurity principles and passwords, access to servers, access to files. That's a risk that companies have to be careful of. So it's one of those things of we need to. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But speaking of moving forward, the next article is talking about the Game Awards, which, if you're listening to this, the nominations will have already been made. But Polygon and Maddie Myers wrote an article that on Monday, 11/18, Geoff Keighley's Game Awards will announce its categories and the nominees. And the Game Awards crew have confirmed that DLC, like Shadow of the Erdtree that came out this year, is eligible for various awards, including Game of the Year, if the juries deem it worthy. So really the question here is, how do you all feel about DLC and expansions and packs being nominated? Like, I know personally, I look at Silent Hill 2, go, great game, remake, should not be on the Game of the Year because it's been done before. You didn't do anything new or inventive. But how do you all feel?
I have to agree with you. It's very much this idea of just how bad these triple, quadruple A games are being released as, that can't go to a Game of the Year or can't go into this, that they're relying on a DLC. And to me, that's just a way of saying, like, our game was shit when it released, but it's great when we actually finished it with the DLC. And it annoys me. DLC, they should not be considered. And I agree with you on the remakes and the remasters. Nothing new happened. You didn't update anything. You didn't change anything about the game except you made it look pretty. So, no.
I feel like it should be a separate category. Recognize, yes, excellence in downloadable content or post-launch content, whatever you want to call it. But these are not full-size games. They were released as games. They were released as extra chunks of previously released games. So like the Alan Wake DLCs, the Lake House, which I also finished this week, as well as the Night Springs DLC. I enjoyed them both, but in no way should they be considered in a game category. You want to put them in DLC chapters or something like that, post-launch content. I'm all for that. But I've heard people say that Shadow of the Erdtree specifically, and this may be the game that, the DLC for, oh God, what's the game?
Elden Ring?
Elden Ring, yeah. Sorry, for some reason I couldn't think of it. But this may be the DLC that people finally that made this decision or made them consider. Should these be full-size games? Because I have had people say it's almost like another game in what it offers. But it's not. It's not another game. And it's in most other games don't have DLC that is that sizable, that chunky. Like I said, the DLCs for Alan Wake, the may take you anywhere from 3 to 5 hours to complete. They're not that long. It's not nowhere near the size of a game. So it's just, I think for me, do separate categories. Don't do a, because there's no way that you're going to nominate more than 5 or 6, post-launch DLCs for a special end of the year award in a year. There's not going to be that many that are that, like, you think about how they narrow down Game of the Year for all the games that are released in a single year. there's no way that you need, multiple categories for, DLC. So you could narrow it down to 5 or 6, or, maybe 4 or 5. But when you have a lot of full-size games coming out, like Black Myth Wukong, like Astro Bot, these games that, do cost more money and took longer to develop, you might push out a game like in particular an indie game that something like It Takes Two might get left off because you got to squeeze in Shadow the Erdtree. So it's hard enough to narrow down a Game of the Year award, and I really just think that DLC needs to stay in its own lane. It's DLC, and it needs to be treated as such and graded as such.
It just, in playing devil's advocate, because Tricky's not here, I want to, there's talented devs. And in some cases, the devs do change up things like the Resident Evil 2 or the Silent Hill 2 remakes. They've made valid changes. But I still agree with Alex in the aspect of there needs to be a separate category that if you're treading where other people have tread before, then you need to go into your own. And there's enough remakes and remasters year after year that I think that can be a thing moving forward. I don't think there's a year that's gone by for the past couple of years that we haven't had, 3 or 4 quality remakes, remasters. So maybe Geoff, if you listen to the show, maybe make that a thing.
And I think, one of the other things is I've seen different review outlets actually review DLC as they give it a score as if it's a game, which I'm sure hasn't helped. It's blurred the lines between what is DLC and what is a game. I mean, if you really pay attention, you can tell. But the fact that DLC is now getting scores, I don't know. Like that further kind of.
It depends. I mean, look at Borderlands. The original release had 4 DLCs. You could buy a season pack for $30 and you got 4 DLCs. Something like General Knox's Secret Armory was a fantastic DLC. Something like Mad Moxie's Pandemonium Cage was stupid. So I don't know. And Tricky asks, if Horizon Remastered wins Game of the Year, should the first time around mean it was robbed? Well, I think that game was robbed to begin with. But again, a remaster, if it wins Game of the Year now, which it won't, based on other games that came out this year, that's the question in general. If a remastered wins Game of the Year, I think the question becomes, what else was released that year? That's a thing that you're forgetting, because the first year when Horizon was released, it was up against Breath of the Wild, and nobody was stopping that juggernaut.
So I'm on Metacritic right now and looking at the best reviewed games of the year. The highest reviewed games of the year were at a 94 Metascore. 3 of the games this year, or 3 things released this year, earned 94. Number 3 being Metaphor ReFantazio. Number 2 being Astro Bot. Number 1, guess what number 1 is?
Silent Hill 2.
No. It's a DLC.
Shadow of the Erdtree.
Shadow of the Erdtree. It's listed as under best games of the year, with the rankings done by score.
I mean, listen, if the game released on its own without it being a DLC, there's value there in saying that it would be Game of the Year worthy. However, you're saying for the fact that it's attached to a base game, it should eliminate it from that capability.
Well, yeah, it's Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. It's not just Shadow of the Erdtree,
Yeah, I get it. I'm of that mindset that if it was its own game, if you could buy it for $40 as its standalone, you didn't have to have the base game. Tricky says, how about this clause? If the main game wins Game of the Year, any DLC for it should be disqualified. It's not fair the same game wins Game of the Year. I could buy into that.
This same list also has it 56 with a Metascore of 85, the Alan Wake 2 Night Springs expansion. So Metacritic is listing expansions underneath with all the other games released this year.
I don't get it. And for me specifically, I feel like the idea of having a separate category is great for DLCs, remasters, like you put all of that in, but not as game of the year. It's not a game. It's an attachment for a game. Like it's kind of like saying, all right, the Jaguar was the best system, but it was a system, but the accessory is now game of the year. Or the PS5 was the system it is, but the controller gets game of the year. Like
The PS5 Pro gets console of the year.
Right, console of the year, something like that. Like you were shit on the first one, or you couldn't make the thing with the first one. Your accessories should not be considered as a game of a year or a console of the year. Just you do it like the Grammys, do it like anything else. Make a category so that you can make people happy.
Well, the good news is most of us don't watch the Game Awards for the actual awards. We watch them for the trailer. So just be on the lookout for that here in the near future, folks. With that, we are going to move on to listener questions.
Time to check my social media, yeah.
We are going to circle back to a question Tricky posed to the group last week. So he asked, what's something in video games that bothers you because it makes no sense? He said he will start, give you both time to answer while I cover his answer as well as other people's answers for that. He said, enemies being behind a door that was locked by a puzzle that hasn't been solved in years. And I think he's notoriously talking about things like Uncharted and Tomb Raider, where Lara or Nathan open an ancient tomb and suddenly you've got the bad guys following you. Brandon Huddleston comes in and says, easily passable object like a fallen log blocking an obvious path forward that stagnates your progress until obligatory mundane task has been completed. You know, those damn invisible walls. George Smith writes in and says, character being wounded or killed within view, but on the opposite side of a barrier, which your character should be able to break through or get past, but can't, because in this cutscene, it's impossible for reasons. It's made worse when right after the villain on the other side leaves, your character realizes, hey, I could break this and get past the wall. And finally, Mark Duplex says, random drops from enemies or bosses. Either you have the item or you don't give it. Either you have the item or you don't. Give it up, fella. So that said, Alex, what's something in a video game that bothers you because it doesn't make sense?
Characters who can't swim. Just water is just immediate drowning. Like as Matt takes a drink of water. I don't know. I get it, not everybody can swim, but just having water be such an omnipresent hazard in a lot of games is just kind of ridiculous to me. Like, in Helldivers, like, you drown in that game.
You could swim.
For a very short time, yes, you have armor on, but even if you put on the lightest armor, you're still going to drown. And then all of the stuff you have, your samples and whatnot, are lost to the deep. You can't go get those. So, not being able to swim in games, like having water be a death hazard, is, to me, I get spikes. I get if you get crushed by a boulder, yes, that's a death hazard. But water, like, come on. Drowning in water, I understand. If you're under the water for too long and you drown, I get that. But just falling in water, oh, you're dead. Unless there's like a giant creature there to eat you. Sorry, it's annoying to me.
Okay. V?
Elite soldiers or elite athletes who have trained their entire lives to do what they do, losing the ability to run faster after 5 seconds.
Oh, that damn fatigue.
That's fatigue. You're telling me a Navy SEAL that has trained to be the best of the best can only sprint for 5 seconds? No. Like, it just makes absolutely no sense. Like, I kind of really like how Zelda, like Breath of the Wild and everything, does it where you can increase your stamina throughout the game because everything was taken away from him. So you gotta like build up your stamina. But if you're going in as Lieutenant Hot Pants here, that's been in the Space Marines for 8 years, top of the thing, I'm sorry, you're not getting winded in 10 seconds, regardless of what armor you're wearing.
Fair, fair.
I have an addition, a game specific one, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Helldivers 2. Everyone knows I've played plenty of that game. The fucking reload speed in that goddamn game. Like it's so infuriating how it takes longer than it should. And they give you the different boosters that you can apply to your character to make them, have better, you can run for longer, or you can disrupt the enemy comm signal so there's fewer enemies in the areas. They seem to be refusing to give us a booster which allows your character to reload faster. I would love that shit, but there are so many times, one, where I swear I hit the reload button and it does not reload my gun, but also just you're being chased by bugs at the Terminids, if you're being specific, and you reload and they're just bearing down and you're like, reload, you motherfucker. Like, do you want to die? Sorry, that game really annoys me, and that one specific thing is the reloading.
And in chat, Tricky is addressing Channel 3 GG. If they have an answer, I posit that we should see this in a quest one day. So maybe we'll get asked that, and we can circle back and answer what the Channel 3 community said. For me, it's fights that when you win, the cutscene shows that you lose. Like, if that's going to happen, just make me lose the fight. It actually happened in a game I played recently. I forgot what it was, but I was fighting and I came up across an enemy type that ended up defeating me. But instead of killing me and going game over, it just leapt it into the cutscene, which showed that I lost naturally. So I hate winning a fight only to show in the cutscene that I lost, because that's what the game needed to do. Make it happen. It's not that difficult. And Tricky says, how about a fight in a game that you can't win? Why make us fight it? Just show a cutscene. Yeah. And other questions that came in. Gareth writes in, if you knew you could only play one more video game and it had to be a game you've never played before, what would you choose? This is a difficult one, because
we can only play one more game, and it's a game that we've never played before, so maybe you pick a shitty one and you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, like, for instance, let's say you die in a week and you only have time for one more game. So what's that game going to be? It has to be one you've never played.
Well, see, it's not difficult for me. Is it difficult for me? Is it not? Well, fuck it, I'm playing Astro Bot. Like, I don't know. Like, that would be the easy one for me. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think, would there be any Zelda game that I would want to go back to and say that I played?
Well, no, you can't have played it before. That's the stipulation.
No. But I have not played, like Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
But also, I wouldn't want to play Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, because it's a game I want to be able to beat in a week if I'm, only have so much time left. So
you could go right to Ganon and beat the game.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that shit. If I'm going to play Breath of the Wild, I'm going to go to each Divine Beast and beat all of the Blight Ganons and then go to Ganon later. That's not beating the game. That's bullshit. No, I'm thinking more like Majora's Mask or something like that, but I don't like the time limit imposed on you in that game, even if you can turn back time. But I have to say just Astro Bot off the top of my head, because I do want to play it. And if I've only got so much time, I guess now or never.
All right. V, do you have an answer?
Probably Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
I feel like that I played Breath of the Wild, and it was the first Zelda game that I ever beat. And I was more into watching you do Tears of the Kingdom than I was playing it myself, because I really liked how your brain worked in that game. So I think for me, it would kind of be let me go through it this time and play it the way that I want to. And then even if I beat the game, I can still play and do all the side quests and do all of the everything in the upper world, lower world, all the shrines, get everything, get my little uh what the hell are they called? The leaves,
Koroks.
Korok seeds, those guys. So yeah, it probably Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay. I don't think I have a good answer for any of this, so I'm just going to turn around and say God of War Ragnarok, because I feel like that game might earn what it's supposed to be as my last game. I don't know. Oh, sorry,
Hey,
Gareth. I don't
that's
have a good
appropriate
answer.
because Ragnarok is kind of the end. So if
I
you're moving
think
towards
that's
that,
where I'm going for, yeah. Thomas writes in, he's got a number of questions. Thomas, if you're still in chat, you're going to have to clarify the second question you asked. You'll see the one that Tricky responded to in chat. But he asked, if you had one wish and it could only be about gaming, what would it be? And I'm going to start us off by saying I wish Half-Life 2 Episode 3 came out and finished the series. Because, God damn it, Gabe Newell, could you please do something about that? There was recently an article where he came out and he said, listen, we couldn't figure out a good design that allowed us to give the players what they wanted. Like, yeah, we could finish the story, but that's not what we want to do. We want to leverage some new technology, some new style, and we owe it to players to push gaming forward, and they couldn't find something that would do that. So my wish is that they just go back and finish the goddamn trilogy. Alex, you got one?
well, I will abstain from saying a Mega Man 3 remake because I don't want Tricky's blood pressure to go up anymore. Because anytime I mention that game on the show now, he tells me to get off his nuts. But I do want to see a remake of a very specific game, and I've mentioned before, it would print money for Nintendo, but I want a Ocarina of Time remake. Or the Switch. Or the Switch 2. Please just give it to me, and I will buy it.
I think we're getting a Wind Waker HD remake on the Switch before you ever get a remake of Ocarina.
It's such easy money. It is such easy money. I would forsake trophies. I don't give a shit to stop playing, to stop and play Ocarina of Time remake. I want that game so fucking bad. And no, I don't want to go back and play the N64 version on the online service. I want to play a fucking remake.
V?
See, that this is the tough one for me because I understand why the game does what the game does, but I would like a remake of Fatal Frame. The original Fatal Frame. I want that on the PS5. I want updated graphics. I want updated abilities in the game. But my concern is they won't know how to handle the opening of the doors. So in Fatal Frame specifically, opening of the doors is meant for like a jump scare, but it's also a possible jump scare, but it also is for rendering the next room. So you don't have to, they didn't have to use too much processing power, but it's like, how do you deal with that? I want Fatal Frame, the original Fatal Frame, just to be remade so I can play it on like the PS5 or the Xbox or the computer. Just to, don't put it on the Switch. Do not put it on the Switch. It is not.
All right. And without having Thomas's updated second question, we're going on to his third one. If you could preserve one system from the past, which system would it be?
Nintendo 64. or the GameCube. They're kind of tied for me. I feel like Nintendo 64 for nostalgia reasons. Just the ideas of the games that I fell in love with on the 64, such as like Pokemon Snap. Like that one I just remember so vividly. But the GameCube just opened up my world to Animal Crossing and the Tales series. So that's the one for me.
And I'm sorry, Alex, before you go, circling back, Tricky said his wish would be for either a SOCOM remake or next game in the series. Alex, you have a system you want to preserve?
Very easy. I'm in the same family, the same tree, the Nintendo family of consoles, but I'm going to go Super Nintendo because, man, those games still look good. A lot of those games are still like infinitely replayable. I mean, you think about some of those games on that system, Mega Man X, Super Punch-Out, Super Mario World. There's just so many damn good games. I mean, Super Metroid, the list goes on and on. So if I could preserve one, as much of a PlayStation fan as I am, I don't think any one system means as much to me as the Super Nintendo.
Okay. This may be a cop-out since it's still a fairly recent system. For me, it's the 3DS. The amount of games and the amount of joy I got on the 3DS is pretty significant. You know, whether it's Pokemon, whether it's mobile Mario games, you know, even having a Smash Brothers variant on it was awesome. And, you know, not too many systems had the capability. I mean, Metroid Prime Hunters was on there, which was a fantastic mobile game. So for me, it's going to be the 3DS. Portability and long-lasting. Black Chaos, going back to Tricky's comment, says, rest in peace, Zipper Interactive. Oh, how we miss SOCOM's U.S. Navy SEALs. And I think, yep, I don't see anything else. Yield does answer in the chat that he wants to preserve the NES. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's all we got for questions this week. So moving on to the topic of the week, it's something I wanted to address as it relates to our last article about, with the Game Award nominations coming out, I want to get the team's feel for what are your top 3 games this year you'd like to see on the ballots for Game of the Year. V, we'll start with you since you obviously had one you wanted to discuss directly, but if there are any others, please add it in.
I think for me, the one that I really think, I know it's not going to be on the ballot. It's just one of those that I wish, like a wholehearted wish it was on the ballot, was Balatro. The ingenuity and it made me enjoy a roguelike game, and I despise roguelike games. Like, despise them. But this game just keeps my attention, and it gives me that ability to play the game and understand it. And we even have a channel in or we even have a group in channel 3 that is just obsessed with this game, and rightfully so, in the sense that it was just such an awesome game. The other game that I would love to see, ain't gonna happen, is Unicorn Overlord. You know, give me my RTS. I think, I'm hoping Balatro gets at least one right. But Unicorn Overlord, you know, hopefully as a tactics game, I hope it gets a nomination. I don't believe that it will, but And the only other game that I really played that came out this year that I don't think will get any nominations is Power World. Just I think the controversies around it and the lawsuits and everything, I don't think it will allow for any like MMO nominations or anything like that. But out of like the games that came out this year, I hope Balatro and I hope Unicorn Overlord get some nominations.
Okay. Alex, you got any?
So it's really hard for me as well because I didn't really play a lot of new games this year. A lot of the games that I really enjoyed were from previous years. Dave the Diver being a prime example of that. Came out in 2023. Evil West was another one of those games I played in January that I really enjoyed, but it's from a previous year. So kind of hard for me to pick. Helldivers 2 seems to be the very most immediate option for me because one, I played it, came out this year, had a lot of fun playing with the Trophy Horse community, and still play. I mean, I don't play it as much as I used to, but I mean, I'll bop in when if there's a game night going on, I try to play. If there's new content released, I usually go after that. So I still bop in every once in a while. I figured it'll be on the ballot. Astro Bot, kind of an easy pick. But from what everyone said, and is one of the best scoring games of the year, it definitely deserves to be there. Like I said, kind of an obvious choice, but given the fact that I haven't played a lot of new games this year, it seems like one that definitely deserves it. And I was looking through the list of Metacritic of the best scored games, and that's how I got to that list when it was talking about Shadow of the Erdtree and all that. Plucky Squire got a better score overall on Metacritic than Helldivers did, even though I think Helldivers is a game you'll get more out of. It's a more, I don't want to say a more fully fledged game, but you'll get more time out of Helldivers than you would Plucky Squire. Plucky Squire is just a smaller game, so I definitely would like to see it maybe win some indie game awards, but I could never nominate it for Game of the Year because there's just not enough gameplay there. So I don't know. I may have to say something like Black Myth Wukong. So I like to see a lot of variety when it comes to the game awards. Something like a Mario game or like a family game, something like maybe a Sony PlayStation like adventure game, a shooter maybe, a puzzle game, or like maybe an indie game. I don't know. I like to see all different kind of games. So seeing something like Black Myth in there, which is a harder game, more combat heavy, I definitely think that is another game based on everything I've seen that, again, that really caught fire that I think could also be on the list. So I'm really just kind of picking two of my three games based on what they, not necessarily that I have a rooting stake in them, but just that I feel like they deserve to be there based on the reaction of the gaming community to them.
All right, fair enough. And in chat, Ray comes in and says he thinks Balatro gets at least one nomination, and that 2024 is going to have a remake, a DLC, and possibly Helldiver 2 for Game of the Year, not the strongest of years. And Astro Bot will beat out whatever Nintendo game goes up for Family Game. And Saber says, we all know Black Myth Wukong Game of the Year. Also claiming that the Game Awards are rigged. Of course they're rigged. They're as I said, nobody watches the Game Awards for the actual awards. And Tricky asked you, Alex, what about Tales of Zankaria or Zanara or whatever that game was?
I definitely looked at Tales of Kinzara. I do like that game. But Game of the Year, I wouldn't throw it up there like that. I definitely think, if it was under Indie Game of the Year, I would say that would be warranted. But Game of the Year overall, it takes a special kind of game, especially an indie game, to crack into that. So Tales of Kinzara, while I did really enjoy that game, I don't know, I couldn't put it up for Game of the Year, honestly.
Well, Ray says it's a 10 out of 10 story, but a 5 out of 10 Metroidvania.
Oh, Tales of Kinzara?
Yeah.
It did have some really good boss fights, though. I did really enjoy the boss fights.
Yeah, boss fights make up a good portion of games that I love.
They are some of the most important moments in games.
So for me, if I were have to say a game that I think needs to be on Game of the Year, I'm going to say Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Someone had to make the comment. Someone had to do it.
No, that is obviously not a game I am playing or have played or will play.
How bad would it be if they're like, and the nominees, Concord, and just...
they just start going into, say, Concord and Suicide Squad, and everybody goes, all right, what category should this be? Biggest failure?
Flop of the year.
Ray again comes in and says might be an 11 out of 10 story. I think Warner Brothers should sweep the awards. I told you in on Channel 3, Ray, that if Belatro gets a nomination for Game of the Year and Hogwarts doesn't, what are you going to do? For me, this year had a couple good games, but I'm not going to sit here and say that there was like 2023 for me is, for a long time, is going to be the only year that holds a candle to 2007. And we all know the games that came out in 2007 were some of the best out there. So for me this year, I think Black Myth definitely should go in there. I think that needs to be said, that game is extremely well made. Damned if I understand what's going on, but the combat is great. The graphics are great. And I think needs to be on top of that. I'm always going to say Legend of Zelda. Maybe not the best, but I think it does things well enough that compared to other games that came out this year, it needs to be on top of that list. And for me, I'll say it every day, all day, all year. But MechWarrior 5 Clans, what PGI has done has massively improved the series, massively improved engagement on mech-based games, and the story is actually they're pretty faithful to the way the things happened in MechWarrior lore, and I think they deserve some recognition for that. It'll never happen, but I think it needs to be said. So with that, unless anybody else has anything else they want to bring in, Alex,
should we do like our own Trophy Horrors Awards?
You know what? I think there's value in us doing a Patreon for Trophy Horrors, because I think we've been lacking in Patreon content. Maybe
yes.
we do that. All right, we'll talk with Tricky. We'll get that scripted out. We'll do Patreon for a month, and then after that we'll release to everybody, so that way it gives everybody something to listen to. Will you guys actually show up for that? Yes, Tricky, we will.
Well, it depends on if you're trying to record it when I'm at work in the middle of the day, then no, I can't show up to it. But
just shows how not dedicated you are.
Tricky's like, hey, what are you doing Friday morning? I'm fucking sleeping
working.
Because I have an overnight shift on Friday. Like,
anyways, with that, we are going to wrap up the show, and we will start with our guest, V.
Oh, well, want to say thank you to my Twitch community. You guys can find me at twitch.tv/gamerveranza. I know I haven't been on for a while, but I will be back soon. I want to thank everybody that is in chat, and then our Channel 3 community as well, where you can go to gamify your social media. I'm taking your spot, sir. And I would like to thank everybody's here, Tricky, Alex, husband, but of course, my last one is to my husband, my best friend, the love of my life. Thank you for always being there for me and always supporting me and this show and everything that you do on and off.
Thank you, Alex.
I want to give a shout out to the listeners, the fans, the fuel to the fire is Trophy Horrors, our awesome community that continues to push us forward. Without your all's fantastic support, we would not I mean, the show wouldn't be. It's more than a show. It's an entire community, but really, kind of the lifeblood of this show is our interactions with the people who make the community so special. So thank you very much for everyone's continued support. Shout out to Tricky, Yield, Matt, and our special guest Veronica. Veronica, thank you for coming on this week, as well as the give a shout out first time to everybody's pets, Harley and Nargacuga and Zelda and Athena and Cosmo and Juno, and I don't know if Yield has any pets. Might. I don't know. Yield, if Yield has any pets, Yield, please tell me next week. Shout out to Yield's pets if he has any. But yeah, and shout out to all the pets out there in listener land. Last but not least, give a shout out to my loving, awesome girlfriend Ashley, who is downstairs enjoying Dragon Age Veilguard. Anyone interested? She is having a ton of fun playing as the mage. So yeah, maybe go check out Dragon Age if you've been interested.
All right, awesome. Shout out to you all for recording with me tonight, both of you.
Daw.
Yeah, I know, so sweet. Shout out to Tricky and Yield who couldn't record tonight. Special shout out to Tricky, heal up, buddy. Definitely want to make sure you're back on the show for the big 650, which, for those of you who don't know, as we come up on episode 650 for all of our milestone shows, we generally try to record a little earlier for our folks across the pond. Hopefully you could show up and chat. Otherwise, I think I'm going to do a trivia contest and really try to make sure that this is a fun little family-friendly game. Quotes on family-friendly. So stop on by for episode 650. I'm sure it'll be a hoot. Shout out to those in chat. I saw Ray. I saw Black Chaos. I saw Saber. I saw Channel 3 GG. I saw MZ. And of course, me, V, and Tricky were sticking around in chat, making sure everybody was engaged. Tricky wants me to say no news on episode 650. So there's that.
Well, there's like massive breaking news. Are we going to do the Patreon?
It's going to be Microsoft selling their business.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should be prepared to include something minimal news. Let's just say that.
We'll see what happens. I'll be the architect of the show. And MZ, if you notice, there was no IGN tonight. So, just saying, when I run things, I run things.
I hear that Tricky's already calling to apologize to IGN for not pumping out their articles on tonight's show.
Yeah, he needs his paycheck for the week. Shout out to the Channel 3 community, as my wife stole my thunder. Just make sure you all go to channel3.gg to gamify your social media, earn some XP for playing and talking about some games. Special shout out to Ray for being in chat tonight. And I'll echo Alex's shout out to the pets. Shout out to all the Trophy Horse pets out there. Hug your pets tight. And finally, shout out to my wife V. You hear it every week. Thank you for everything you do on and off the show. And with that, I'm going to say time for the Trophy Horse to eject.
Later.
He's bounced. The theme song is Venus by the band Eden off their album Z. Permission granted by the band and 12th Zone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/EdenPhilippines.